Hello guys, my name is Vagani and today we are gonna walk through the midterm evaluation video. So let's start. So first thing we got here is the web dev. My phone is too small. There you go. So it's the first thing. And then the web dev is basically divided into the two main parts. One of the part being the say front, and the second one, I'm just gonna copy and paste if I can here. I'll see, there you go. And the second one is the backend. I'm just gonna make a quick mind map here, and we'll go through each topic later once you're done with making the mind map. So this is a global picture I'm gonna make here. So in the front end, there are three main things we are gonna be having. Just gonna quickly, that's second of them, and this is the third of them. Alright. So the first thing we are gonna find here is HTML. The second one we're gonna having is CSS, and the third one we're gonna have is JavaScript. So in HTML we have a couple of things over here. We have what we call tags. Make this bigger. So we have what you call tags like p, du, h1, h2, h1, h2, and many more. Then we have like elements like body tag and HTML tag. Those are the one that's pretty you can see normal ones. These are the ones you can see we have pretty normal ones. Then what we have over here is the CSS. Alright, so just gonna, there you go. So we have a CSS over here. We have a lot of other things like flex box, grid, we have flex box, grid over here. Then just gonna make copy and paste this one. Then media query, and other things are a lot of attributes like font size, then mean width and mean height. Then we have other things over here as well, like like units. It can be pixel, It can be RAM, it can be EM, it can be um it can be percentage as well, or it can be VH, or abstract a lot of pixels, like a lot of units actually. And lastly, we have our, just gonna make this over there so it's not gonna interact with this one. And lastly, we have our JavaScript. Oops, sorry. So lastly, we have our JavaScript over here. Which has a lot of other things as well. So in JavaScript we have functions. Let's just say about the inbuilt functions. We will list them as we go on, so I'm just gonna leave empty for now. In the backend we have Node.js, and then Express.js. And the other things we have in the backend are, just gonna say here, databases. Alright, so this is not the whole structure yet, but we will go through each one of them as we will explore everything, right? So now every website is going to begin with the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript itself. Alright, the HTML is something that is, you can think of this front end side as a skeleton, right? So the HTML is like a body of the any website, right? It has a fundamental tags and the other elements like paragraph, forms, buttons, usually those big headings as well. It is everything. The CSS is where it brings, this is a style layer, right? And this is gonna having a lot of other things like color, fonts, layout, and other things as well. So the HTML creates a structure, the CSS, it kind of decorates the structure, it brings the color, we have flexbox and grid, which is mainly used widely, right? So we have flexbox and the grid to make a complex CSS layout. Then we have a JavaScript. So let's talk about the CSS more actually. So we have attributes here, font size, and the height of something, the color of something, the width of something, minimum width and minimum height and minimum width. It's like saying, so let's say if I set my minimum width to 500 pixels, so I'm telling my website, I'm telling my server that, hey, this window, so the as minimum as this window can get is 500 pixels, no more less than that. So it can get bigger, it can go to 1000, it can go to up to 1200, but it cannot go less than 500 pixels. So it depends upon the scenarios, right? Like in what scenarios you'd want to use those things. And then we have the units: pixel, RAM, EM, percentage, VH means height of something, virtual height. Then DVH means device virtual height. So it depends, right? And this unit depends as well in what kind of condition you'll be using. So if you are using RAM, it means that if you larger your screen size or if you shrink your screen, the RAM, the font size is gonna be adjusted, right? So if you large your screen size, the font that is too big is gonna get a little bit less or something like that. So in the pixel is now pixel is hard coded value, right? No matter what your screen size is gonna be, pixel is gonna be hard coded. So if you have a very small text, right, in the shrinker screen, but if you if you stretch your screen, right, but that font is gonna say that font is not gonna change at all. It's gonna stay small as it is, like 16 pixels. So it's gonna say 16 pixel. It's like, let's say it's gonna be this small, right? That is too small to be read sometimes. So, but the RAM is gonna adjust to depending on your viewport, depending on how much screen in the browser you can see. Then we have JavaScript. Now JavaScript is something that is gonna make my website is actually responsive. It's gonna do the CSS thing, but the JavaScript is gonna make it more interactive. So in JavaScript we have a lot of other functions. Let's talk about the other things. Let's talk about, say, in JavaScript we have array, object, class, and you might have heard this object oriented language. Then we have inbuilt functions in JS, like array dot sort. That's inbuilt function as well. Then we have some functions for JSON as well, which converts automatically. Then we have functions for objects as well, and some basic things like for loop and other things. Now the backend is the backend is something where everything goes, right? So in the backend we have Node and Express.js. So now the thing is that our JavaScript could run outside the browser, like, right? So letting us build the backend servers. So now when you're running the Node.js or the Express.js, Node.js is the language and the Express.js is something, it's an environment where you actually run the Node.js itself. So with the Node we needed a framework to handle routes easily, right? And that's where this all comes in. The Express.js comes in. It can handle your routes very easily, right? So an Express makes our routes very simple, right? So I'm just gonna, let's see, routes. I'm not sure you can see that. There you go. Alright, so we have a routes over here, and we have a lot of routes, right? A lot of. So the most useful routes as get, post, put, and delete. These are the routes that's gonna get used most widely, right? These are the routes. That's get is for the getting the information. The post is gonna be for sending the information through form or through any other way. Then put is the same as the sending the information, but you're updating the information in other matters, right? And the delete is for deleting the information. You just send a request to delete delete some data from your backend, from your database. We'll see how how this request works just in a few minutes. So then we have we obviously need a databases to store data, right? And that's where the databases comes in. So we have our database over here. So it's gonna be annoying. I think I might have done something here. Right. Okay, there you go. So then we have our databases over here, which are, so there are mainly two types of databases, right? I'm just gonna expand this so you can see more, right? So we have two types of databases when you're talking about a database, right? So one of the databases we have is NoSQL, and the other databases we're gonna have is SQL ones. So this is a SQL database, and that's the NoSQL databases. Now in the SQL database, we have our, flagship. You can say flagship databases because they are the one that's being still used most widely, right? So these are the databases which are like Oracle, SQLite, Oracle, SQLite, or just SQL itself. So these are the databases that have a traditional key, a traditional primary key, and a foreign key structure. Means they have a table, and you will need to connect the tables if you need to connect all of the information as well. But in the NoSQL databases, it goes away. The thing in the NoSQL database is we don't need to connect any tables. There is no foreign key, there is no primary key, right? So these are databases like MongoDB, that is one of the most widely used databases in the terms of NoSQL databases. So first of all is the MongoDB. Then we have like Postgres database, then the Firebase as well, and etc. We have the databases as well, but I won't be going to each one of them. So these are the databases that are NoSQL databases. Means they have a document type database, but everything looks like a JSON. So just to give you an idea how a NoSQL database might look like, I'm just gonna go through that. So these databases are gonna look like this. So you have something like this over here. I'm just gonna, there you go, so you can see everything clearly. So these are the document database. It doesn't have anything. So let's say you have ID that's maybe unique. Let's say 123 for now, and then you have your name coming up over here. So that's gonna be the either first name or something. So let's just say my name over here with and like this. So, and the other information as well, like your phone number, your email, your other things. So this is how a NoSQL database might look like. Surely it can be complex, but this is just a basic thing. So now let us dive into the one concept I wanna discuss here. Okay, so now let's go with the front end side, right? In the front end, we have something called, so on the front end side, right, we have something called frameworks. So there you go. So we have something called frameworks. Now, so we have a lot of frameworks, but the three most widely used are the only three ones we have, right? That is gonna be the React, Next, and Vue.js. Now these are the three frameworks that is being mostly used anyway if you were to go for web development, right? Now in React we have something called, I mean not in React but in every other frameworks you have something called a state manager. Now it depends widely which one you not go for, but the most widely used one in the Redux, right? So I'm just gonna go here. I'll say the most widely used one is Redux. Now this is a state manager, and say so what happens into any web application is that when you have so many data, when you have so many other pages, right? So for example, so you have one page over here, other page over here. So imagine you have a 3-page over here, right? Just gonna name them. This is A1, this is number 2, and this is number 3. So imagine you have 3 pages over here, 1, 2, and 3. And what happens is that as the component multiplies, right, as your page multiplies, the data start bouncing around unpredictably, right? Because the data, you have to persist the data in the every other page, and that's where it actually gets complicated, because then you'd have to make a lot of functions, you would have to make a lot of duplicate things as well. That's going to make possible to data that's going to make data possible to persist across pages, right? And that's where the React comes in. So this is how the React actually works. In React you have everything moves in the one direction into React. Okay, that's the first thing. In the Redux, actually not in React, but yeah. So there is a view, and there is an action, then reducer, store, and again view. Now this might seem complicated at the first time, but we will see how this works, right? So this is the architecture of the Redux, right? This is the main flow of the Redux. This is how the flow of the Redux works, right? Now in Redux we have 3 main things, right? So in Redux we have something called actions, right? Which is gonna describe that what happened, right? Then we have something called the reducers. This is gonna describe how our state changes. Then we have something called store, which is holds the entire app's state tree. Alright, so in the Redux, right? So imagine these are the 3 pages that need a data for something, right? And then we have Redux here in the middle, sitting over here. We have our store over here. So So we have a store here which does three things, right? Now the first action that happens is that if you click, let's say let's actually go for example of a counter, right? You know how the counter works. Once you tweet, it goes positively forward, it goes negatively back. So if you click, let's say increment, right? If you click increment, now what happens? Now this one actually dispatching an action, right? Dispatch an action from button itself. Now it goes to Redux, right? Now remember what we told about? We told about the reducers. The reducers are the one it decides how the state changes, right? So imagine if I have a reducer called um, increase counter in my Redux store, right? This is a store. This is our store. This is what happens into the store. So imagine I have a reducer saying increase counter, and what that's gonna do, it's gonna actually go here, right? And then it's gonna increment the count. So the word Redux thing have is something called state. Now this state persists in entire application, not entire application, but if you have these three pages, if the store is wrapping these three pages only, then you're gonna see the state. If it's not gonna wrap the things, you're not gonna see any changes over that as well. So I have a state.counter and I say plus a plus 1, right? It does that, and I dispatch my actions, or you can say changes, right? I dispatch that, and in now this value, and remember this value is shared across entire application. Again, it depends on what pages. You can selectively say if you want these values not to be shared with other pages, right? It's up to you. But if here we are imagining that we have this state in our entire application, right? So what happens over here is that from the front end we we fetch this value. So from the front end, right, we just simply fetch this value by use this patch and using a use selector as well. That is something you use to select the values from your Redux store, right? And that's what it does. And once it fetch values, you have the value to the front end. And no matter what you do, no matter what you do, it actually it actually persists over entire application unless you hard refresh your page. If you hard refresh your page, the Redux store is gonna get refreshed again. It's not gonna have any other values. I mean, it's not gonna have the values you were having, right, before you refresh the page. So that's what happens. But again, if you have 3 pages over here, no matter on what page you go, you're gonna have the same value on every other page, just because every single value is coming from the store itself. That's the beauty of the Redux. But the Redux is not about chaos, all right? It's about the predictability and control. It's like giving your app like a black box recorder. So every action you do, every state that's gonna be changed, everything you do, it's gonna get stored into the Redux itself. So every action you do, everything you do, is gonna get stored into Redux itself. So that's gonna make your application it really easier if you're having a big applications. So let's now quickly wrap up this session by doing a live coding session, and then we'll just wrap everything up. All right. So I'm just gonna go to my visual code over here. I'm just gonna make sure if you guys can see it. Yes, you can. All right. So there you go. So I have made an app.js. I mean, it's not something you would need or something, but yeah. Okay. So this is what I have here. And I'm just gonna start by removing everything from here, since we don't need anything over here. So yeah. I'm gonna download my shit, I actually copy pasted other things. Okay, so I'm gonna just install Redux JS toolkit and React Redux. I'm just gonna install that over here so we can use it. Okay, there you go. Now this is our file structure over here. The first thing we would like to do over here is configure our store, because the first thing you would want to do is make your own store, right? So we go over here into the counter, we go to the new file, and okay, and we say store.js. Now this is our store, right? So first thing we do is configure our store. So config go store from @redux toolkit. Okay, there you go. And we import. We don't do, this is we will do our storing thing over here. Now let me make another file saying counter slice.js. This is where our functionality is going to be lying. So we create slice from import dash from, this is going to be coming from Redux toolkit as well. When we say create slice, there you go, and we say const initial. I'm just gonna say ini actually, because I don't wanna make everything big. So let's go for 0. Then we have our counter slice is equal to create slice. Name is gonna be counter. This is the initial state we will passing. I'm just gonna copy and paste the initial state over here. There you go. And then something we call reducers. We talked about the reducer. What it does is it depends how the state is gonna be changing, right? So what it does is state.value plus is equal to 1, right? And then we have another reducer for say decrement, right? Something like that. And then okay, this is fine now. And then we have another reducer for, let's say, decrement, right? And that's state over here as well. And let's say state dot value minus is equal to 1. It's gonna get it decremented, and that's it. And the last thing we do here is export things. So we have to export our reducers, right? That's how we're gonna make changes. Is equal to counter slice dot actions, because those are the actions that does something. And then we have a default counter slice dot reducer. We have to export this as well. Okay, so once we have done this, right, we would need to go to our store.js and actually import that counter slice so that we can have that in our store. So let's say over here, counter reducer from counter slice. And okay, do we have that in counter slice? I'm just gonna make sure if we do. We do. Okay, there we go. And then we export const store is equal to configure store. That's where we're gonna configure our store over here. And then we say I have one reducer, right? That is called counter. Remember, we named our reducer counter slice, and then we're just saying counter reducer. So with this setup, it's all good to go. You should be able to use if you want. All right. Now over here, we're just gonna make a simple, quick front end, so we can use everything over here. So first of all, let's make sure we have everything that we need. Right. Here we need a import from React and use state, import from React Redux, and from that we want a use selector and use dispatch, and then we will want to import our actions. So those actions are going to come from counterslice.js. So that's going to come from counterslice.js, and we had increment and a decrement, right? So increment and decrement, because that's only two features we'll be adding for now. Okay, there you go. So since we have this all, I don't need any CSS for this, so yeah. We will be just having anything like this. Let me just count is equal to use selector, and let's say state, because that's what our thing leaves. Counter dot value count dispatch is equal to use dispatch. This is to dispatch actions, right? And then we have our const amount and set amount. So we won't really need them, because since we're only applying two features, increment amount and decrement amount, right? So now we have our count over here, right? Then we have our button, and let's say on click we are gonna dispatch an action from the button. So we're gonna dispatch increment, and let's just make it this, and the same button we're gonna having for the decrement as well. That's gonna say minus. Okay, there you go. And just like that, it should be working. One more thing we need to do over here is that we need to go to app.js just to make sure that we are seeing everything we can. So let's actually run this application. npm start at dot. So it's npm start. Okay, seems like we're missing something. Alright, so we are almost at the end of the video. We're pretty much done with everything. So I've actually gone through the main.js and what was the issue we were having. It's just that we didn't have any source script and we needed to run the npm run down, not the other command. So I've actually given the provider here to our entire application, so entire application is able to provide it. I mean, get the values from the store and fetch it. So this is a live server over here. Alright, so now this is our state Redux, right? So if I plus it, it increases. If I decrease it, it's gonna get decreased as well. We don't have any other functionalities like resetting the button and increasing by amount, but this is what I think should almost give you an overall idea about what the Redux is, right? So if I had to refresh my page, you see here it's gonna get 0. Now what if you need to precise the last value you had when you had to refresh your page, right? So if 0, it's actually 2, number 2, right? If I had to refresh my page, if I still want to persist number 2 instead of the number 0, what I can do is that I can just so what I can do about into our counter slash is I can get this value, I can store this value initial state into the local storage, right? So I can store that into our local storage, just write a key and a value. So imagine if you have something like let's say counter and the value is 2, so I can just fetch that value here. Every time I refresh, I'm just gonna fetch that value from a local storage and it's gonna persist. So that's the beauty of the Redux, because now this, if I need this value in entire application, I don't need to write any other function. I don't need to write anything other things. I can just reuse the whole functionality of it. So that's for our application. And just to recap over here, I'm just gonna go with every other thing that, so every click, each fetch request, every dispatch that happens, the front end captures the user's attention, right? The backend is the one that's gonna interpret everything. It's gonna remember it as well. The backend is gonna work on the actions that we took, and the database is gonna remember everything, right? And the Redux is it actually gives us power to time travel to straight to see the where things can go wrong as well. There is even one extension I guess, that where you can where you can see the history of the Redux, that what's going on behind the your Redux, even if you know what's going on, but if you want to still visualize right easily that what goes on behind the Redux store, and when you click any component what Redux does. So that's very useful. Again, for the Redux, it has a lot of things. View action reducers, but the only 3 things that matters is that the action reducer and the store. So the action is gonna describe what happened. Reducer is gonna be like how state is gonna change, and the store is gonna hold the entire state application tree. So next time, the next thing is this, right? The dispatch, we saw that we had our application, right? Where we made a simple counter, right? So I think that actually wraps up everything, front end, back end, and all we have learned so far. So again, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, happy coding, I guess.